A lot has been said by a lot of people about Boris Johnson's time in Number 10. He was confronted by the biggest challenge to face a Prime Minister in peacetime. Not just a health crisis, but an economic one too. He's been accused of acting too late and of lying about what went on here.
The whole truth and nothing but the truth.
This was Mr Johnson's chance to give his side of the story, and he began with an apology.
Can I just say how glad I am to be at this inquiry, and how sorry I am for the pain and the loss and the suffering
sit down.
Of
please stop.
COVID
Johnson.
victims.
Please sit down. Right, ushers, please, could you ask them to leave?
These were the 4 women thrown out for interrupting and said they'd never accept Mr Johnson's apology.
11 municipalities in Italy.
Back inside, questions about February 2020. Coronavirus had spread to Italy and the cabinet had discussed what plans were in place here.
I look at all this stuff in which we seem so oblivious with horror now. I mean, we should have twigged. We should collectively have twigged much sooner. I should have twigged.
When the seriousness of the virus was understood, it led to this lockdown. Several former colleagues described Mr Johnson as indecisive. He says he was weighing up difficult options.
I've got the Chancellor of the Exchequer with me saying that there's a risk to the UK bond markets and our ability to raise sovereign debt. This matters massively to people in this country. I have to go through the arguments. And that is what I was doing.
Did you consider the argument against lockdown, or did you?
I'm afraid to say at that stage I gave it pretty short shrift because I thought that my job was to protect human life. I had no other tool, literally nothing else.
There were some uncomfortable questions about the culture in Number 10. Former Chief Advisor Dominic Cummings wrote sweary messages criticising colleagues, including his boss.
I knew that some people were difficult. I didn't know how difficult they were, clearly. But I thought it was better on the whole for the country to have a disputatious culture in Number 10 than one that was quietly acquiescent.
That was certainly a positive spin on a workplace atmosphere many described as toxic. And Boris Johnson seemed emotional as he reflected on the first year of the pandemic.
We have to be realistic about 2020, the whole year, that whole tragic year. We did lock down, but then it bounced back after we'd unlocked.
Today, Boris Johnson denied that he failed to show leadership during the pandemic. He said it wasn't indecisiveness, he was simply weighing up options that all had terrible downsides. He did admit that mistakes were made, but said it was a collective failure. Scientists, politicians and officials all underestimating how serious the pandemic was. Boris Johnson will be back here tomorrow to give further evidence. Vicky Young, BBC News, Westminster.